Welcome back to Wellness Waves, everyone. Today we're diving into a topic that seems incredibly simple, almost mundane. But trust me, it's packed with hidden dangers and surprising benefits. We're talking about freezing bread. You might think, what could possibly go wrong? I just toss it in the freezer.
And that's where most people make a critical error, Host 1. Freezing bread seems straightforward, but this everyday practice carries subtleties that most people miss. And these aren't just about taste and texture. They can potentially compromise your health, sometimes fatally. We're going to reveal the #1 mistake everyone makes and several other common errors, plus how to freeze bread correctly to keep it delicious and safe.
That's right, the freezer has become our modern preservation tool, extending the shelf life of perishables like bread that would otherwise quickly stale or grow mold. But as we'll discover, freezing bread isn't just about avoiding waste. It actually transforms the bread's chemistry in ways that can be beneficial when done correctly or problematic when done incorrectly.
Today, we'll expose the 7 biggest mistakes many people make when freezing bread without even imagining the risks they're taking. And of course, we'll share essential tips for you to learn to freeze this food in the right way. Stick around because the last mistake on our list is the most fatal.
Before we jump into those critical mistakes, a quick question for our listeners. Do you consume bread every day? What's your favorite type? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more health and wellness insights like this.
Segment 1, mistake number 1, freezing bread without proper protection. All right, let's start with the first common error, and it's all about protection. Freezing bread without proper packaging.
This is huge. Most of us just throw a loaf in a flimsy plastic bag or even just a twist tie. But bread left unprotected in the freezer suffers a process known as freezer burn.
Exactly. Once frozen, the bread quickly loses moisture, leading to a dry, crumbly, and frankly unappetizing texture. Nobody wants that for their toast in the morning. But beyond just being unpleasant to eat, there's a serious health risk here.
Right. Unprotected bread can absorb moisture and odors from other foods in the freezer. This creates an environment where invisible fungi can develop. And these aren't just harmless molds.
No, they're not. These fungi can produce mycotoxins that, while not immediately noticeable, may cause digestive problems, trigger allergic reactions, or contribute to chronic inflammation. So the bread doesn't merely become unpleasant to eat, it becomes potentially harmful.
The fix is incredibly simple. Use appropriate freezer packing. Good quality plastic freezer bags, well-sealed plastic wrap, or aluminum foil. For optimal results, use hermetic packaging or a vacuum sealing system to remove excess air before sealing. This prevents ice crystals from forming and damaging the bread's cellular structure.
Segment 2, mistake number 2, freezing bread while it's still warm. Moving on to mistake number 2, freezing bread when it's still warm. This often happens with freshly baked loaves. You're so excited, you just want to preserve that freshness, so you wrap it up right away.
And that's a big no-no. By sandwiching warm bread in plastic wrap before it's had time to cool, you're essentially creating a hydrogenated water vapor chamber inside the packaging. This provides a perfect environment for mold growth and, even worse, bacteria development.
Think about it. When warm bread, wrapped tightly, starts to release steam, that moisture has nowhere to escape. The excess moisture, released during freezing and then thawing, results in a soggy, unappetizing loaf.
But it's more dire than just soggy bread. That moisture creates a saturated food environment where harmful microorganisms can thrive parasitically. These aren't just flavor killers, they're potential health threats.
The solution is simple but crucial. Always wait until your bread has cooled completely to room temperature before bagging it up and freezing it. This guarantees the bread will maintain its original qualities and a plaque-free, fungus-resistant environment where molds and mold-friendly temperatures are absent.
Segment 3, mistake number 3, freezing entire loaves instead of portioning them. Mistake number 3 is all about efficiency, freezing entire loaves instead of portioning them. We've all done it, just toss the whole loaf in there.
I'm definitely guilty of this one. But here's the problem. Bread can become stale and lose its flavors if it's repeatedly thawed and refrozen. Each time bread goes through the freeze-thaw cycle, its starch molecules undergo a process called retrogradation, which accelerates staling.
That's right. The bread becomes increasingly dry and loses flavor with each cycle. And those temperature fluctuations that result from these freeze-thaw cycles are also perfect conditions for bacteria growth. You're essentially inviting trouble by letting it warm up and cool down multiple times.
The clever fix is to slice the bread before freezing. Put the slices into separate trays or with pieces of parchment paper between them. This way, you can take out just what you need to use at a time, keeping everything else safely frozen. It minimizes waste and preserves the high quality of your food.
Segment 4, mistake number 4, freezing bread for too long. Our fourth, and this one is very common, is freezing bread for too long. Even though freezing makes the shelf life of bread longer, it does not make it unlimited.
This is key. If a loaf is kept frozen for too long, it starts to lose flavor and nutritional value. The structure of the starch continues to slowly change, even in a frozen condition, and oxidation processes are still at work, just at a slower rate.
Most bread holds up well in your freezer for up to 3 months. After that, taste and texture start to deteriorate significantly. Because it's so easy to forget how long different loaves have been stored, people often wind up eating suboptimal or potentially stale bread.
The simple solution is to write the date the bread is frozen on each package, and try to adopt a first-in, first-out system for your frozen bread. This way, you'll be sure what you're eating is within its optimum time period for quality and safety.
Segment 5, mistake number 5, inappropriate thawing methods. Moving on to mistake number 5, inappropriate thawing methods. The thawing process is just as important as the freezing process.
Many people just put frozen bread out at room temperature for hours, believing this is the best method, but this is really not the best way. In fact, it's one of the quickest ways to turn any sort of bread into a warm breeding center for germs.
Exactly. Sudden temperature changes cause condensation, leading to a crusty exterior and a dry interior, which is already unappealing. More concerning, the period spent at room temperature, particularly in the temperature danger zone, 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, allows rapid multiplication of any bacteria present.
So, what are the safer thawing methods?
Refrigerator thawing. The safest method is to put frozen bread in the fridge for a few hours or overnight. It thaws slowly without too much excess moisture. Oven warming. For crispier breads, preheat an oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius and bake frozen bread for 5 to 10 minutes until crispy and golden. Toaster method. For pre-sliced bread, place frozen slices straight into the toaster. In seconds, they'll be fresh and crunchy. Microwave. Use with caution. Microwave use should be restricted because it can change the starch framework to give a rubbery texture. If necessary, use it only for 10 to 15 seconds and eat your bread immediately.
Segment 6. Refreezing previously thawed bread. Now for mistake number 6, and this one carries significant hazards. Refreezing previously thawed bread.
This is a big one. When bread thaws, all microorganisms that may have been present begin to proliferate. Freezing doesn't kill these microorganisms. It just puts the brakes on their growth for a while.
So, when the bread is refrozen, these recently multiplied populations remain intact and proceed to thrive during the next cycle of being frozen and thawing out all over again.
Repeated freezing and thawing provide excellent opportunities for bacteria to grow, some of which can cause food poisoning. The risk is great for vulnerable individuals, such as the elderly, young children, pregnant women, or those whose immunity has been weakened by disease.
The rule is simple. After bread has been thawed, eat it immediately or throw it away. Never return originally frozen bread to the freezer. It's just not worth the risk.
Segment 7, ignoring signs of contamination, the fatal mistake. All right.
We've arrived at the number 1 deadliest mistake, the one that can truly be fatal: ignoring obvious mold on bread.
This is where things get serious. Some people think that if they just remove the moldy portion, the rest is fine to consume, but this belief can have major medical ramifications.
Absolutely. Molds visible on bread is only the surface manifestation of a much more extensive fungal network. Even in cases where no obvious mold shows, the mycotoxins generated by this fungus might have already contaminated the entire loaf.
And here's the kicker. These poisons are heat stable, meaning they are not destroyed by heating or toasting, so toasting off the mold won't save you.
The only safe course of action when bread exhibits any mold is to throw it completely away. There is no safe amount of chopping away or toasting for ingestion. This is the mistake that can truly be fatal if those mycotoxins are ingested in harmful quantities or by vulnerable individuals.
Segment 8. The hidden benefit, resistant starch and molecular changes.
Now for some surprisingly good news. Interestingly, when done correctly, freezing bread doesn't just preserve it, it can actually make it healthier.
This is a fascinating bit of food science. When bread is frozen, its starch undergoes a retrogradation process that transforms some of it into resistant starch.
Resistant starch is a type of fiber that the intestine cannot fully absorb. Instead, it reaches the colon where intestinal bacteria use it as food, generating compounds essential for digestive health, particularly butyrate.
Butyrate is a short-chain fatty acid that plays an anti-inflammatory role and contributes significantly to intestinal well-being. It's a fantastic benefit that many people aren't aware of.
To maximize these benefits, choose whole grain bread with higher fiber content to begin with, and then follow all the proper freezing and thawing procedures we've discussed. The combination of whole grains and the resistant starch forms during freezing creates a doubly beneficial effect on digestive health.
Understanding what happens to bread at a molecular level explains why proper freezing matters. Bread consists primarily of starch, and when it freezes, water molecules form ice crystals that can rupture the starch granules. With proper packaging and freezing techniques, these ice crystals remain small and cause minimal damage. Without protection, large ice crystals form, destroying the bread structure and creating that dry, crumbly texture associated with freezer burn.
The science of freezing bread illustrates a broader point about food preservation. Seemingly simple processes often involve complex chemical changes that affect both food quality and safety. What looks like mere staleness or texture change can actually signal chemical transformations that impact nutritional value and safety.
Freezing bread properly isn't complicated once you understand these principles. Proper cooling, packaging, portioning, thawing, and attention to storage times create not just better tasting bread, but potentially healthier and safer bread as well.
So the next time you put bread in your freezer, remember that you're not just preventing waste. You're engaging in a process of food transformation that, done correctly, improves both the longevity and quality of one of humanity's oldest and most essential foods.
Don't forget to subscribe my channel to get the next episode. We hope this deep dive has shed light on the often overlooked science of freezing bread, and crucially, helped you avoid those potentially dangerous mistakes.
Now we want to hear from you. Have you ever made any of these mistakes when freezing bread? Share your experiences in the comments below.
And if you found this video helpful, please type yes in the comments, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with anyone who stores bread in their freezer.
Thanks for tuning in to Wellness Waves. Stay curious, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next episode.